What's up everyone and welcome. Today we are going to be discussing The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Now, Nintendo has been talking about how this game is supposed to revolutionize the series, similar to the way that Ocarina of Time impacted the gaming industry. We have the first true open world, or what they're calling open air, Zelda game. We can go anywhere we want, conquer any dungeon we want. We have brand new gameplay mechanics being introduced to the series. We can hunt animals for food, gather different ingredients, mix and match them to create different effects, or make them stronger. We can use any weapon we find or dropped by an enemy. The clothes we wear affect our status if it gets too hot or too cold. This game is truly a next-gen Zelda game. The problem is, yes, this is all new for the Zelda series, but we've seen these exact gameplay mechanics in other games, going back as long as 10 years now, and maybe even longer. I'm sure what comes to everyone's minds are games like Skyrim, World of Warcraft, The Witcher, and others. So what exactly can Nintendo do with these old game mechanics that will make them feel new or unique for the Zelda series? Here with me to discuss this and other Zelda related topics are McIntyre Productions and Malikan, but I would love for you to be a part of the conversation as well, so please subscribe and comment below to share your thoughts.
That's a really good question, since Zelda has always been a series that likes to innovate. They always like to be creative. Miyamoto and Aonuma are very much innovative people, and they really like to expand the horizons in terms of scope, concept, and development of gameplay, story, and so on for each particular Zelda installment. So what will a Zelda game be like after Breath of the Wild? Since Aonuma did say that he wants Breath of the Wild to have a similar impact like how Ocarina did back in the Nintendo 64 days, when Ocarina made a massive impact within the gaming industry. So Breath of the Wild may or may not have a similar impact as well. If we can interpret it as a similar scenario, like Ocarina of Time did have a big impact on how subsequent Zelda games would act. Ocarina of Time is very much like a grandfather of sorts for the other generations of Zelda to come, which did get some roots from Ocarina of Time. So if Breath of the Wild is a similar fashion, like how Aonuma said, then perhaps we'll continue to see more of these open air type of scenario when it comes to Zelda games, which may or may not be the case. My personal hope, well, this is I'm doubtful this will ever happen. But if I had a wish list of what I could get from, let's say, a Zelda game, or maybe even Breath of the Wild, would be, well, actually it's more like two things, but to have some sort of a film tool in which people can record Zelda films on their own and upload them on the internet, like a Zelda filmmaker or something like that. And have Nintendo to be a lot less stingy when it comes to copyright stuff on YouTube, especially. I believe Nintendo, this is digressing, but I believe Nintendo took down a Metroid fan game around Metroid's 30th anniversary, which got a lot of people upset, but that's a whole nother concept.
Well, thing is, those games, they do this, yes, that is true. There is only one problem. They are not Zelda. This is Zelda, and you're doing this in a Zelda game. That is the kicker for me. I love Zelda games so much. I was 7 years old when I played the first Zelda game. I'm born in 1980, so it was a completely immersive world for me. That I'd sit between in front of the TV just before I was going to school and play the game, and it's Zelda has always been my first game of choice, no matter what. World of Warcraft, yes, cool, and all of those other games, yes, cool, but they're not Zelda. This is Zelda.
What are you most excited about when it comes to Breath of the Wild? When you first play this game, are you going to rush to Ganon and try to defeat him? Are you going to explore the areas and familiarize yourself with the world? Are you going to go from one village to another trying to figure out exactly what is going on in the story? Or are you going to go straight for the shrines and dungeons? What are your plans with this game when you first play it?
For me in particular, it has to be the lore of Zelda, and especially since I believe Nintendo got rid of all the NPCs and Breath of the Wild gameplay demo, whatever they had at E3, and so The biggest thing for me is that I love lore. Like, I just love reading about it, just figuring out like what happened to Hyrule and all this stuff. I really want to learn more about the Sheikah, since the Sheikah has been this giant enigma in all of the Zelda series. But now we potentially could learn much more about them, so that's extremely exciting. Um, and I'll probably make a couple of videos about, let's say, hidden lore stuff within Breath of the Wild, and do stuff like that. And yeah, I think that will be it's probably the most exciting thing I'm looking forward to about the game.
Well, I am most excited about like collecting different weapons and like fighting the enemies and taking their weapons and hunting and cooking and so on. I can't wait to do that. But at the same time, I really want to dig into the lore as well and the story and see what happened before and see where you're going and all that. And also, oh my god, exploring, like climbing the mountains and all that. And I do believe actually you will be able to catch your own horse no matter what the color or whatever it is. Like a lot of people like stick to like, oh, Epona this, Epona that. I don't think this is going to be Epona at all. I think it's just going to be a horse that you just catch and tame in the wild. And you could like catch a white horse if you'd like to.
Well, we've seen in Twilight Princess, later on in the game, you have a chance to ride one of the wild boars, and maybe this game's just expanding on that to where if there is any wildlife that is rideable or realistically rideable, then you can try to ride them, whether they be tamed and let you ride them or wild and throw you off, and it becomes more of a challenge.
It could be that as well, but I mean, seeing that you start from nothing, you'd have to like come to a village or something to get the horse in that case, like if it would actually be Epona, as like people say, like Epona. But I do believe that you actually just tame a wild horse in the wild. I mean, it is Breath of the Wild, and you pretty much live in the wild. You hunt, you cook your own food, and so on. So yes, I do believe that you'll just tame a horse in the wild.
With the story not being such a huge focus in the Zelda series, it's kind of interesting and ironic how it seems to be one of the most important things, and there are so many different ways of connecting these games together, and so much stuff that is unexplained that just adds to the story, even though that's not necessarily what Nintendo's going for.
Yeah, well, actually, I really want to see the lore as well. I really like that part as well. I love like stories and so on. Like I write my own fantasy and so on as well. So I really like the story. Only what I mean is the gathering and the cooking and so on. That is what I am most excited about in this game, because this is what's truly new about Zelda in this particular game. But the lore, it has always been there for me. It's always been like a very interesting thing to me, for me to dig myself into.
Yeah, I think with this game, usually a Zelda game, the hook is like, what's the next dungeon going to be like? What new item am I going to get? How is this going to progress the story? And that kind of keeps you going forward in a Zelda game. But in this one, it doesn't seem like it's just the story or the dungeon to dungeon experience. It's, well, if I go over here and find these enemies over here, or if I cook these foods together, what new item or what new food am I going to come up with? There's just so much in this game that if you push the story aside, there's still things that can keep you going in this game and a new path of discovery that's off the main story. So that's what I'm particularly interested in. Which, of course, I want to know, like, is this a link from a past Zelda game? There's tons of theories out there on my channel and McIntyre's channel as well, to where, we just try to figure out, Is this link a link from a past game? Where does this fit in the actual timeline? What in the world is going on with Hyrule? Thank you both for joining me on this and upcoming discussions on the Nintendo NX, PlayStation. However, those won't be published for a few days, so for those listening, please subscribe for more and check out my theories in the meantime. But if you've had enough of me, please check out our guests on this episode, McIntyre, Maligan. If for some reason people listening haven't heard of you, let us know who you are and what exactly it is that you do.
And hey, this is McIntyre Productions. I normally I do content over at the same channel with the same name over at McIntyre Productions to talk about different gaming topics, Zelda NX. I recently did a video on Sonic Pokemon. I did a really recent one with the NX. So if you like gaming news in general and like to learn theories and all that jazz, come down the channel. I'm making some new stuff. I'm also working on a secret project that has to do with Metroid. And I'm really liking how it's turning out, and I'm pretty sure it's going to turn some heads. Not to toot my own horn or sound condescending or anything like it, but I'm very much satisfied with the project so far.
I am Malagan. I have 2 channels that I am active on right now. One is Malagaming, where I do gaming videos, and the other one is Malagan Vlogs, where I do vlogs.